Greetings, Internet traders. David here of TradingFibs.com to bring you the daily trend for July 5th, 2016. We are week 27 of the year. As always, please seek financial advisement when trading with your money, as these videos are for educational purposes only. Support your knowledge in the market. See what's going through my head on any given day. Always make sure you have a solid trading plan and always manage your stop when placing a trade. Alright, there we are, week 27 as we get off the week here, day one, as it's Tuesday, Monday being a holiday session. There was econ data for today. Markets closed on Monday, a little bit light on the econ data as Fed speaker. News coming out today on the Clinton emails, sending the markets perhaps down, who knows, reactionary once they decide not to indict it this time. Markets got a little lift. So there we are. Price action, 5 setups, 141 ticks net. Most of those on the NQ. Let's take a look at some of those setups here today. There's your overnight session as markets, again, if you remember, recap from last week, we had a post-Brexit reaction. The market's got a lift end of the month. We begin July off Friday in the green. Market action overnight pulling back again. You had Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, Monday reaction, and pre-market and overnight last night for market action to pull back slightly. So there's your overnight action. You got 4 charts in the red, very nice to the downside. And there's our first setup of the day. Price action, sell signal, downside. Again, 3 charts and really 2 charts. Price action was underneath the 51.44. It was a tough call to go under, but you were under the T350. Price action at least on 2.5 of the charts. As price action was underneath the 50 and the 144. Sell signal on the YM, 2 charts in the red. ES, 2 charts in the red. It was a tough call, guys, this morning, but the best of the best as we've been working on price action, looking for the open on the London session. We'll go over that in a little bit as to why this probability had a better success. But as far as charts lining up, the risk was on to take the entry short. And there we went. NQ and YM downside, managing it on the crossover, one off at 11 ticks, and then came back up and took out the stop, not being able to get the entry on the ES. Now, why that NQ setup? Well, there you go. There you have 3 charts, 2 charts in the red, 50 below the 144 here as it goes from green to red. Again, the bigger picture, as you saw the overnight session, just back on the chart here. There's your overnight session. Higher time frames are downside. NQ is downside on a 15 tick, is downside on a 20 tick. So you're looking at the higher time frame. All you're looking for is the entry on the lower time frame in as many charts in sync as possible. And there you go. Risk was on as not all charts were lined up, but the sell signal downside and then the crossover back upside and close it out. Let's take a look at the AD line. AD line again, price action to the downside. Here we go. AD line moving the markets down, pretty much plateaued for the remainder of the session. Had a little bit of a lift here in the 5-minute, came back down and right back upside to close out the session. So there's your AD line in sync with the market. Again, pretty flat afternoon. We see a lot of this in the summer session. We see a lot of these early moves, and then price action again plateaus out for the remainder of the day. All right, let's jump into the 5-minute chart. Take a look at that crude again. Crude with a long trending move downside. We'll take a look at that on the daily trend here in a moment. But again, crude coming down from the 50s into the mid 60s here, all the way down to today's low, coming right back up to finish around the average low. Again, we saw in all 3 indices movement downwards. A price action coming down, setting a low for the session. What was that low today? Well, we'll take a look at that in a little bit here. But price action again, finding the low, finding support here, and bouncing back upside in the afternoon session. Not really sticking to too much of a range here as price action, there it was, 25-minute open range high for the session, and the low, the big thick green and the big thick red, again, managing to come up back to the Globex low and pretty much hanging around there. ES closing out not too far away from today's open. So price action down and pretty much right back upside. All right, let's take a look. How did we do on the fib levels today? That's right, fib levels again, shorter range today. So you know, when you got that shorter range on the Fibonacci's, for the Fibonacci levels, you want to look at price action based on Friday's session where we didn't have much on Monday's session. Again, I don't count the daily gap from Monday's session. I look for the daily gap from Friday's session. So when we take a look at the daily gaps here, there it is. I drew in the daily gap from Friday's, not yesterday's session. So again, price action downwards on a pullback here, as we can see price action pulling back and leaving ourselves an open gap all around from crude to the NQ, ES, and YM. All right, usually I don't jump right away into this, but I'm going to jump right into the daily big pick for a moment as price action. What were we looking at today? Well, let me pull this down here for a moment. Actually, let me go ahead and keep that up there as we'll come back to crude here in a little bit. But that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for those pullbacks to the 51.44. As I've said, early entries, or you could say the initial start of a cross trend, is when the T3 moving averages cross back upside, all right, on a higher time frame. So there it is. This was last week. We saw the price action come up. We knew that the week was a good trending week. That's exactly what we followed. And then once we broke upside, leaving Friday's video session, I said, all right, we're back in an upwards trend now. And then looking, not an upward trend, because at that time we were still confirmed downtime, but we were crossing over, and then said, well, if price action comes down, look for the support here at the 50 EMA. It's exactly what we did today. So price action, looking at it on both a 4-hour chart and looking at the daily chart here at the ES and the YM, finding that support around the 50 period moving average zone. So again, nice play out today, almost classic to the T to find price action, find that support there. So when we talk about lows, and we were just looking at the 5-minute charts, we ask, well, where was the today's low? What was that session low for? Well, it was exactly those 51.44 EMA on a 4-hour chart and the daily chart 50 period moving average. Okay, so as far as daily gaps are concerned, before we head into the daily trend, watch for the gaps above and below. If the trend does hold up here, as we'll talk about here in the market outlook in a couple minutes, look for price to rebound back upside, close out the daily gaps ahead, but always remember that we still have open gaps below yet to be closed out. All right, let's look at the daily trend here. Price action on the daily trend. Here was the crude to the downside. Again, overnight session coming down about $3. Best of best setup. Sell signal to the downside on all 4 charts. There she is. Pullback entry possible. Keeping your stop at the swing size. Keeps you in the trend all the way down. Exit on the greens. Not a bad trade. Take a look at the YM. Very choppy session for the most part. Again, overnight session we saw was pretty much to the downside. Here we saw one sell signal after another. But again, as the U.S. Open, not really being able to get a solid trend here, a runaway trend at least. So you got to change the strategy. You got to look at the turnaround, seeing how many charts do you have lined up. Again, the higher probability, obviously, with the sell signal with as many charts in sync. That's the 4 charts over here. Pretty much leaving the afternoon session away, and on that last entry, just let that ride. All right, NQ, again, same picture. We talked about that first entry. The remainder of the session, taking a look downside. It was tough. Tough trying to get a solid entry. But again, if you had 4 charts, so there was one of our entries today to the downside, sell signal downside, keep the stop at the swing size. You had a nice successful trade. Same here, sell signal downside. One of these trades, I think it was over here, entered the trade, had 10 ticks off. Price action at the stop, so ended up only being 2 ticks. There was the afternoon session trade as well. And back to the upside again, some of these trades get away, not even an opportunity for a pullback, so just let that one ride the afternoon out. ES price action, ES price action again today. Similar picture after an overnight session to the downside here. That was a nice pullback there, and then coming back down on the T350 had 3 charts in sync. Avoiding this. This was a very nice setup underneath the T350. A little bit delayed here as you're watching price action right. I would have waited 1 or 2 bars on the ES as it moved down here, and then price action back to the upside, just left that one alone. And as you can see, finished out here a little bit to the upside. Again, you're looking if gold is up, markets will be down. That's exactly what we had today. Reverse on Friday, everything was in the same direction. So pretty strange there, as Ken Polcari had mentioned his AM newsletter. But there you are, sell signal downside, not as many charts in sync, not as many charts in sync. There was your best setup of the day on gold. If you could hold on to it to the close, maybe a couple more points upside. Taking a look at the euro, price action very nice on the euro to the downside, just like we saw in the crude. Sell signal 3 to 4 charts in the red. You missed the opportunity. If you want to get it on a soft pullback, that's up to you. It's a harder entry to get in, but keep your stop at the swing size, keep your stop at the swing size, keep your stop at the swing size. You get the story here. Price action kept you in the trend all the way down. So euro, not a bad trending market today. All right, let's take a look at the VPOC here. Price action again right up above 17,805 on the YM. The ES just straight up above 600-day VPOC is a magnet. Price action tends to always pull back at some point to those. Just to keep in mind where they are. Again, I like the volume profile. It tells you how much price was traded at that given price. How many trades came off? Not at what time, but at what price. Makes a lot more sense to me. Again, I treat them just like I would a daily gap line. Are we going to go close it out? There's a VPOC there. Is it in the not in the way, but is it standing there? If it is, great. I know about it, and I'm ready to maybe manage my trade a little bit differently. All right, I wanted to jump in here for a moment before we get to the big pick here. Again, when we're looking at multiple time frames and we're saying this is one of the things we're moving forward with, progression of the T3 strategy is learning how to not only get an earlier entry, but how to stay in the trend. You're looking at the higher time frames, just like we've talked about last week. Maybe you're looking at minute chart, 60-minute, 30-minute, and then a 15-minute chart, looking for the entry on the smaller time frame. So here's your big trend for the today. ES, how could you deny the fact that the trend was down, right? So you got a nice trend down. You got a 51.44 this morning. That was pretty much in the red here in the lower right-hand corner. And then you have your entry this morning based on 4 charts. There it is, 939 price action downside on 4 out of almost the 5 charts. So transitioning to a new setup, not necessarily a new setup, but a cleaner look to using higher time frames and timing the entry on the lower time frame. So adding a bar in. Now, one of the several of the trading room members have gone ahead and made some wonderful studies here for us to be able to not only have our fib projection levels on there as well, but incorporating the London session open, the midpoint, and then as soon as the market opened, having a indicator show up that says long probability or short probability, and so syncing that up with the chart and seeing how many charts in sync. Hey, every trade's a risk. You put it on, you see if it runs. If it runs, great. If not, you got to be stopped out. You take a loss and you move on. But making sure that you always have your stop at a reasonable, if not manageable place. If you can't place it at swing size, you obviously are going to be at a higher risk. All right, so progressing forward, look forward to having these charts out soon and upping the early entry and being able to stay in even longer. That's the whole goal. All right, taking a look at the daily big pick. We just looked at the crude here, price action to the downside. Crude struggled a little bit here, a lot of chop in that 50 to 45, 46 range, as now we've lost support off the 50. Price action now downside, T3 moving averages, but 50 below the 144, as for a while we were there in the green, but now pullback resistance around the 144 zone. So watch for the crude. If crude on an intraday gets a pop back up, watch for the 50, 144 as resistance. If it breaks through upside, closes the gap, then we'll see that support and continuing upwards. Again, got to watch that intraday for both trends, but as far as bigger picture trend, we are now sitting to the downside. Not that it can't flip on a coin. Taking a look at the 3 indices, again, we looked at the low of the session. There it was on the 4-hour charts, finding that support. So got to go with the trend being upside right now. We'll watch what the overnight session does, but there it is, support off the 50 144s, leaving ourselves in an upward trend on both the YM and the ES. NQ still struggling. We'll watch this session overnight, see if we have the follow through. Watching the 50 EMA and watching the intraday session, always in both directions. Volume not bad today, so can see the follow through. That might help as well. Guys, I want to jump into the market cap leaders here for a moment, as we didn't get a chance to cover that. Let's jump quickly here and cover the big 6. Take a look at Apple. As we can see, Apple on a bigger time frame, holding underneath the T350 on a 4-hour chart. Again, here's the daily, here's the weekly. Weekly still in the green, but we're still holding downside. I've talked about how I don't like Apple right now as a long-term hold yet until I see it breaking some of these key moving averages, but a break above the 50 on a daily would help. Breaking upside of the 50 EMA Also breaking up above the T350 on a 4-hour chart. So how do I see that? Well, then I look to the 3 charts on the left. I see green, green, and green. So that's a start. So on a 15-minute chart, what I want to see is I want to see price action break back upside above the 50 and the 144 here on the 15-minute chart. And then I want to see, I want to watch for resistance here on the 100-tick chart. Again, the entry already here on the 50-tick chart as price action as of last week started to break upside, crossing the T350. Always love a good pullback. So if we can hold the pullback, find the support here, and stay in the green, breakthrough on the 4-hour chart will indicate a good, solid, positive upside trend on Apple. Until then, again, you're just picking the lows. Maybe you're a value seeker, but until then, not as much faith as I do in Amazon. Here is Amazon showing exactly what I'm looking for. Price action in the green, Heikin Ashi bars. Again, if we have a pullback, watch for the 4-hour chart here at the T350. We found it on the daily. We're still up on the weekly. We found it here on the 50 daily as well. 15-minute chart, nice pullback here today. Price action getting a lift on the 100-tick. You might go to the lower time frame to find a cleaner entry, but that's great action here on the Amazon today on a 50-tick chart with the lift to the upside. Green, 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 and supporting the green to the upside. Take a look at the Facebook. Again, looking a lot better than Apple. Again, we're looking at a bigger time frame. The 4-hour chart still somewhat downside. We're on the bigger time frame weekly. We're upside. We're in the gap on the 50-200 here on the daily. So I'm looking to break this 4-hour chart. Get above that 50 144. Still have to break above that 50 on the 4-hour chart, but until then, what's going to lead is right here. Look for that red to go green. If Facebook can hold up here, it is holding up here on the 100-tick. That's good news, and watch for the 15-minute chart to remain in the green as well. Let's wrap it up with the last 3. Like looking at the Alphabet Google again, green, green, green support again. Finding that support on the 15-minute chart here on the 144. Good news. Price action again on the higher time frame weekly is still holding up. I need that daily to get back up above that 200. I need that 50, that 4-hour chart to fight that 51.44. If I got that, then I like the Goog to the upside. Until then, no go. Netflix, taking a look at the Netflix. Again, Netflix got a nice lift today. We're in the green here. There's a couple pullbacks here during the session, but again, Netflix has been in a downtrend for some time. Weekly is going to have a little bit of struggle here, but again, I like the daily pick moving up towards that 200 period moving average, and I like the 4-hour chart that's getting a little bit of a lift back upside the 144. So good news on the Netflix coming back upside, holding above on a 50 tick above the T350. That's a nice trend to the upside. Gives you the early entry as of last week. Again, if you're looking, just look for small pullbacks. As long as your 15, 100 tick are in the green, you should be good, but watch for those daily and weekly. All right, wrapping it up on the Starbucks. Starbucks as we move forward. Starbucks again, a little bit of a struggle, still in the red, but holding above on the 4-hour chart. That's good news. Holding above the T350, that's good. Daily, back into the gap. That's great. Want to see the weekly pop up above the 50 again. We are in the gap on the daily here, but again, as long as we're in the green all around, we got that lift last week with the help of the market. So holding above those T350s is one thing you want to see. Shorter time frame on the left. Always watching for pullbacks to support you move back upside. Look to the 4-hour and the daily to keep you in the trend, and watch for those resistance lines. All right, taking a look ahead as we roll up the daily trend here. You want to look, we got Fed speakers up. FOMC minutes tomorrow, guys. FOMC. Taking a look at gas EIA report on Thursday, and it's all about non-farm payrolls on Friday. All right, that concludes an insight into the state of the indices. Feel free to stop by at tradingfibs.com or any of my social media outlets to obtain more information. My trading mantra, one simple strategy: any market, any chart, any time frame will keep you disciplined. You can find me every day on Twitter and at Trading Fibs, and as always, I leave the crystal ball to the experts. I only trade what's in front of me and on my charts. And as always, leave your bias at the door when trading. Hey guys, have yourselves a blue zone day. Good day, good night, and good trading.